Have you ever been in a car accident? Have you ever wondered how your vehicle keeps you safe? 50 years ago, would you have walked away from that very same accident? I've always been interested in vehicular safety, and I've researched it to understand it further. My name is Evan Smith, and today I will be exploring the four most important safety features in automobiles. The first subject is going to be the obvious, seat belts. Ever since you were a kid, you've been in a seatbelt. You've been scolded for not being in a seatbelt, but you've always been in a seatbelt. The three-point seatbelt was invented in 1959 by a Volvo engineer named Nils Bohlin. Volvo, however, decided not to patent the design as they believed it to be needed in all automobiles for the greater good of safety. It's very respectable of them, if you ask me. A three-point seatbelt is a belt that goes over the shoulder and over the lap, rather than just over your lap. The purpose of a seatbelt is to prevent your body from being ejected from your seat and possibly out of the car. It locks you into your seat, absorbing some of the energy from the crash. People not wearing a seatbelt are 30 times more likely to be ejected from the car, and more than 3 out of 4 of those people ejected from the vehicle die from their injuries. However, before the three-point seatbelt, there was a two-point seatbelt that was just over your lap. This seatbelt was better than nothing, but during a collision, it did not restrict the torso from hitting the dashboard. Along with human seatbelts, dog seatbelts and cargo nets are highly recommended as to prevent the dog and/or other objects from entering the cabin at high speed. If things enter the cabin at high speed, it can be extremely dangerous and possibly even more dangerous than the accident itself. Going along with seatbelts, we have child restraints. Motor vehicle injuries are a leading cause of death among children in the United States, but many of these deaths can be prevented. Always buckling children in age and size appropriate car seats, booster seats, and seatbelts reduces the risk of serious injuries and death by up to 80%. In 1962, 2 inventors designed the car seats with the idea of safety in mind. Jean Helen Arms was a British mother and journalist. She is credited for being the first to suggest safety seats for children. The harness in a child's car seat helps keep the child safe by spreading the forces of the crash over the strongest parts of their body. As such, a harness that is set in the right height and tightened properly to a child's comfort maximizes their safety. Our next topic will be airbags. The invention was accredited independently to the American John W. Hetrick, who filed for an airbag patent in 1952. However, they were the first implemented into vehicles in the early 70s on the Mercury Monterey. The job of an airbag is to inflate and act as a cushion for the passenger when in a collision. The airbag decreases the likelihood of the passenger hitting the dashboard or sides of the vehicle. There are 4 different types of airbags. The first being on the steering wheel and dashboard. This helps mostly with frontal collisions. Secondly, we have side airbags. These extend from the door, which protects you from not only side collisions, but also vehicle rollovers. Thirdly, much like the side airbags, we have the curtain airbags. These cover the windows and prevent your head from colliding. Lastly, unlike most airbags, we have windscreen airbags. These deploy not to protect the passengers, but to protect the pedestrians from hitting the windscreen. Because if you hit a pedestrian with the car, you might not get hurt, but they might be flung over the car and onto the windscreen, which can be very detrimental. Furthermore, airbags are designed to work with seatbelts, not as an alternative. The combination of both reduces the risk of death in a frontal crash by up to 61%. Furthermore, we have crumple zones. An Austrian engineer patented the concept of a crumple zone in 1937 However, the concept wasn't put into use until the 1950s with the Mercedes-Benz 220. Prior to the introduction, cars were made to inflict as little damage as possible on the car itself. This often left occupants extremely vulnerable to injuries such as whiplash. Crumple zones are areas of a car designed to deform and absorb damage in a collision protecting the passengers. While some areas deform, others are extremely fortified to help protect and prevent occupants from being crushed. Going along with this, in the 1980s, engines were actually designed to be pushed underneath the vehicle instead of into the cabin where it could possibly crush occupants. Newer cars are designed to skip off of each other in some types of crashes. This prevents loss of momentum that leads to whiplash. Furthermore, we have the SIPS system, or SIPS. This is a side impact protection system that allows for all pieces of the interior to break and give way to the occupant for maximum energy absorption. Older cars might look better after a minor incident, but the occupants will be in much worse condition than a newer counterpart. In conclusion, with the combination of seat belts, baby belts, airbags, and crumple zones, these can significantly increase your odds of survival in a collision. Thank you for coming. Good night.